Hold on just a minute here. And skadoosh. Good evening. And since everyone watching this intro is watching after the fact, well, wait, no, everyone but one. Don't forget the whole like, subscribe, bell icon. And, do you mind? Stop that. Stop that. No. Anyway, tonight I'm doing a sculpt for a patron. And Fuzzbutt, get onto the bed. Get on the bed. Yes, you heard me. Get on the bed. Get on the bed. Go. There. Yes. No. No, Fuzzbutt. I'm trying to get this broadcast. In some ways, it's a lot of fun having a very affectionate fuzzball. In others, it can be a pain. Okay, Furball. Do what you need to do. Go. Go. Crazy cat. Anyway, so right now all we're doing is we're waiting for our patron to show up here. Well, if you haven't full screened it, there's a chat over here. And we're waiting for them to show up so that we can talk about, number one, what kind of figure they want me to make, and number two, so they can answer any questions I might have about that figure. So, until they show up, we're just going to cover a few things. Some of you might remember when I sculpted this figure. Ah, you're here! Okay. Yeah, the character this figure is of died a week ago yesterday. Oh well, oops. Alright, what can you tell me about... No, Ralph. What can you tell me about what you want me to sculpt for you today? No. A Seraphim Angel. Alright. Are you wanting... there's multiple different versions of the Seraphim. Up to and including a snake with 6 wings and eyes everywhere. Or are you just wanting a 6-winged angel figure? Do you mind? Okay. What are they wearing? Big thing. Got it. A load of this. Get a load of that little fur ball. What? Do you mind? I'm trying to get this done. So, robe, armor, bikini. I'm assuming male or female? Ooh, wrapped in a sash/ribbon. Okay. Wearing that probably means it's going to be a female representation. Am I correct? No gender. Okay. That's going to be kind of difficult. My two base meshes are very clearly male and female. I can smooth out some of the more Buzz Bucket. What are you doing, cat? Yak. Ah. Cut that out. I'm sorry. He's not normally this much of a pain. Okay. So what we're going to do then, we're going to start off. We're going to. That didn't. Yeah. Start off by bringing in the female figure. The eyes are unusually large simply because that's how things go. This is the base figure. Now, when we get to sculpting, we'll smooth out the chest area. Next thing we're going to get is some wings, which we're going to load them in one, and then just for the sake of, let's bring that up, bring this up, then we're going to load in the second set, and we're going to lower that one down. Let's do it this way. And then a third set. And that's the last thing we're going to do after we do everything else is the pose for those wings. Now, one thing we're going to do, parameters, okay, no, I don't have, that's going to be a lot of sculpting. Alright, it's going to hide these wings. But we're also going to parent them to the chest. So that as the chest moves, they move with it. Do we have a pose idea for this figure? Pop this out so I can pull up the chat and read it without having to switch back to here. All right, idea for her. Or is it just whatever comes to mind? Does she have the flaming sword or not? I'm going to be using the word she. That's simply because we're using the female figure for this. Yeah, no sword. Okay. Did I add... No, I did not add that yet. Okay. Standing straight with... Alright, our hands... Just arms out to the side, above her head. Like that. Also, there's never exactly a perfect upright position. There's always a bit of tilt to the body, or it ends up looking like a ends up looking like a mannequin. Arms down, palms up. Okay. Actually, let's just go ahead and okay, one thing I need to do real quick while I'm thinking about it. Because I didn't do this, it's something I forgot to do at first. Right? Smooth out the twist here. Because twist needs a little bit more motion all the way up and down the arm. Okay, that's better. Much better. And just because we kind of need to, let's go with the other forearm too. This is how we rig the figures. I'm just clearing that up. This is the first time I have used the female humanoid figure of the new style. Okay, then we're going to go back to here, go to parameters, get our hand, forearm, and shoulder symmetry right to left. Except. And then we're going to pose the legs a little bit forward. And then this one a little bit. I'm going to stay a little bit back just because it's got to have a pose. Then we're going to go to the front view. And with both feet selected, there, okay. And then bring it up a little bit. Okay. Perspective. And we're going to tilt the neck just a little bit. Again, to bring it. Make it a bit more natural looking. Okay. How's this? Considering that she's going to have that. And I'm assuming that these wings won't be poking through the ground like that. Alright, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take each one of these wings. Well, expand from selected. Okay. We're going to select all of the shoulders, forearms. Actually, we're going to select all of these things. Except for the chest there. Chest there. And we're going to X scale them a bit thinner that way. And we're going to Y scale them, make them a bit thicker. And then we're going to pose them. Okay. One thing that we're going to do is the bottom center wings are going to be slightly more back than the others. And we're also going to kind of make them go a little bit upper. Symmetry. And we're going to take these, make them go up even more. Just, once again, we want to clear these out. I'm going to bring these forward, so we got to rotate. There. And now it's going to be, let's symmetry, accept. There we go. And then we can unfold this one a little bit to make it a bit more balanced, and this one a little bit, once again, to make it more balanced. How's that so far? Okay, a little more downward. All right. And then for balance purposes, we're going to have to bend the abdomen back a bit more and the chest forward a bit more and the chest out a bit more. And even then, we're also still going to have to dilation and rotation for the feet. And then on the shin, want that. And now from the right-hand view, we're going to need to bring it forward just a little bit. Once again, to balance those massive wings. Okay. Now let me check one last thing. I need to find out if I did in fact make Oh, that would be under... Wings. Ah, I did. Okay, let's see what that does. Okay. We're going to delete that one because of what I did to it. Actually, edit mode, delete, selected property. Okay, now we're going to take all of these and move them to mesh resolution 4. Oh, let me turn off edit mode so that we can put in those feathers pretty quickly. Okay, more files. Yes. Or accept. Yeah, that's a lot better. And we can tweak it when we get to sculpting. There we go. And actually what we need to do is go ahead and select from here to there. And now we can go ahead and start playing with things like the Y scale, the Z scale, making them thicker, which means that they'll print better. And we can also tweak like this particular wings, drop it down a little. Okay. So how's that looking? Those be a toga? Okay, well, actually I can take these and bend it forward some. Actually I can do that with all of these. It'll give them a more natural curve and will help with balance. As for toga, would you prefer a floor length toga or a knee length toga? Floor. Okay. So we go to Content Library, Female Clothing, and we have a long skirt. This skirt will be turned into a toga. Okay. Now, what we do from here, the hair will be, everything else will pretty much be sculpted. But before we do that, let me go ahead and one last thing from here. We need to decide on a base. Now, I've got several standard bases for her to be standing on. This is the first batch, or the second batch actually. I forgot about him. Anyway, now this is the first batch. But Fuzzbud is getting interested. Do you mind? Okay. We've got flagstone, tile, rock, wood, grass, and then we've also got these, which include some arcane tile, cracked earth, pebbles, there's a magic circle, volcanic ground, random terrain. Which one of those look best to you? Do you mind? This one is crazy tonight. Do you mind? Get over here. Yes. Cats. Insane fuzz bucket. Yes, you. Okay. Let me go ahead and pop back over to here. It's going to be a file, import, and then we're going to go up to free sculpt meshes, bases. You said you wanted grass. So that'll be this one. We're going to go to the front view, pull out, and we're going to lower this until the feet are in the grass. And actually with her wings and all that, that's a good position for the base. Maybe get a little bit more this way. Just a little bit. There we go. Alright, so the way we do this, we hide each individual item that is not part of the base figure. And we're going to start by exporting just this. File, export. Now this is going to go under new base figures, broadcast, new folder, Seraphim, body. Hide her and file, export, wings lower, accept. It's going to take longer because it's higher polygon count. File, export, wings medium, or middle. Accept. Hide these, make these visible. File, export, wings top. Accept. Hide them. Whoop. File, Export, Row Bottom, Accept, Hide, and then File, Export, Base, Accept. And we cut over to ZBrush. Yay! Now we're going to start sculpting after we import it all. So we go to New Base Fig, Broadcast, Seraphim, Body. Once it loads in, we draw it into the screen. We click on Edit so we can maneuver without drawing in a second one. And one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to kind of smooth out the entire chest area until it can't be told from whether it's boobs or pectoral muscles. We're going to deal with the hips after we load in the robe bottom. Now we insert polymesh, import robe bottom. Then insert polymesh, import wings lower. Insert polymesh, import wings middle. And then insert polymesh, import wings top. And then insert polymesh, import base. And for right now, this is the figure. But we're going to hide the base and the wings and deal with this robe. Because among other things, it's overlapping pretty badly. Because I did not successfully fix some of the and then what we're going to do, we're going to subdivide this a couple times. One more. Excuse me. And now we're going to use this brush, which what this does, it's going to let us trim the bottom of this. It doesn't need to be quite that short, or quite that long. And this also gives us a sharp edge once more. And now we go to the body, and we are going to subdivide it several times. And then we're going to merge down. What that does, that makes it one piece. Now we go to Geometry, Dynamesh 1024. Dynamesh. Bing. Now we shrink the icon, and we smooth out where it meets the flesh. Including on the back here. And right here. Then we're going to deal with the shape of the hips. We're going to do this with the Move tool. Or Move Topological will do for this. We're just going to grab it and kind of pull it in. Make it less blatantly feminine. We're going to do the same thing to the waist and pull it out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to shrink the mouse. Up here. There we go. We got a lot more androgynous look to it compared to what it had before. Wouldn't you agree? Buzzbutt. Oh. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually make the toga part. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to make sleeves. This probably won't be a historically accurate toga. Actually, let me go ahead. I'm going to pop to here. The sole purpose of coming over here and Google image searching a toga. Make sure I'm getting it exactly right. Okay. I'll be honest, it'll be difficult to tell the difference between a toga and a Greek chiton on an androgynous form. Yeah. Let me go ahead and pop back into there. Now, wait. Pardon me for a second. You're being a putz to stay. Okay? Oh, no, let go of me. Yeah. You're going down on the floor. Shoot. Go on. Stay up there this time, okay? Yeah. Crazy cat. Because it's time for me to break out the Wacom tablet. Yes, it's Wacom, not Wacom. The official word, blah, blah, blah. It's Wacom. Alright, and what we're going to do is we're going to make it short. We're going to give it some short sleeves first. And we're going to do that. Well, let's switch to standard brush just so I can make it a smaller brush. Oh. And we're then going to draw out to there. And on this side, we're going to draw up to there as well. Maybe remove some of that. Then we go to Subtool, Extract, 0.0125, Extract, Accept, Draw, and delete. That's too big. And now we want to be up here, not down there. Okay, extract 0.08. Oh, 0.008. There we go. That's where we want them. Then we go to Geometry, Dynamesh 256. That'll get it nice and low poly while still keeping a sharp edge. And then we're going to inflate and shrink it down because we want to cover a little under half. Now we're going to kind of smooth this section. What this is going to do, it's going to bring us down until it's blending into the arms. Okay. We're also going to subdivide it a couple times now. Move. And one more. Delete lower. Draw to get rid of those masking areas. Merge down. And then we had re-dynameshed. Go back to the standard with a slightly smaller. And we smooth out where it meets the sleeves. So that becomes, the entire upper arm becomes our sleeve. We're going to do something slightly simpler for the neckline. And that will come after we make the overwrapping shoulder piece. Okay. So for right now, it's becoming more and more obvious that, or let me go and smooth out here. Blend it in a bit better. Okay. Now, for the actual toga, we're only going to go to the waist, because we're going to have a belt there, a rope belt. So we're going to kind of draw out where the waist piece will be. Bring that in. Let's kind of straighten this out right here. This is going to be a little bit thicker because it does kind of need to be. Draw. And then click on him and draw again to get rid of the masking. And now, this is only going to be Dynameshed at 128. Because it needs to be softer edge, especially near the bottom. Now we're going back to inflate, just to smooth out the bottom a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to subdivide it until it looks nice and smooth. There we go. Delete lower. And we're going to start with this clay buildup tool and a round alpha. Shrink it a little bit. We're going to start off by just kind of, yeah, that's right. We need to open up the stroke menu and turn off lazy mouse. That's too small. Just the general shapes and of the wrinkles that are going to be there. Okay, that's our general shape for where the toga is going to be. And then we're going to go back to our body piece. And we're going to turn on transparency so that we can see exactly where it's meeting the bottom. And we have a rope brush that I have downloaded. I've purchased it actually, but it's typical for what can be done. And let's shrink this down a bit. Basically about the size of the center ring in this mouse cursor is about how big it's going to be. See, it's about the size of this, a little bit bigger than the center ring. So let's take it down one step. And then, oh, no, that was a mistake. Okay. And then yeah, we're going to turn off transparency. We're going to split unmasked parts. And then click down here to get rid of the ring. Okay, now we're going to start from here. And we're going to use the regular move tool. We're going to make it bigger. We're going to kind of, with transparency on, pull it down and out a little bit to make it pretty much more obvious that it's there. And we turn off transparency, and there it is. Now the thing is, this is also very clearly there. We need to go and pull it in because it needs to go into the mesh to fuse in when we're done with this. So next up, we go back here, turn on transparency, go back to the rope, and we're going to draw on the ends of the belt knot. Split unmasked points, and then this one is going to come out not quite as long. Split unmasked points, and now we're going to just take these and use the move tool and just kind of move them into the robe, just to, again, to make certain that they have that full penetration so that they will fuse with the geometry. Now we're going to merge down with both the rope parts, all the other rope parts. Go back up to here, go back to draw, we turn transparency back on, and we're going to insert gemstone because one of them is a generic knot. I'm going to draw it on until the ropes are the same size as the ropes around the waist. And then we're going to use move to bring it out a bit. Yeah, that looks good. And then we're going to merge down. We're going to take that, we're going to bring it down. Oh, no. We'll go back here, we're going to split unmasked. That's what I forgot. Split unmasked. Down, and then merge down. Now, that rope, we're going to subdivide it a couple times. One. And then dynamesh it to make it one piece. There. Got a rope belt. Now, the next thing we have to do is a lot of wrinkles on him and a lot of feather detailing on the wings. We're also going to grab the center pieces of all these wings and pull them into the figure. So we're going to have to do these one at a time so we can see what we're doing. We're going to use the move tool, make it a lot bigger. Grab here and pull it in. Get down some, pull it in there. Pull it in there. So this way, the wings are just coming seemingly from slits in the tunic, or in the toga, like they're coming out from the seraphim, not from just hanging out there like they are right now. So I'm gonna pull these in, pull this in, pull it down, pull this up, and let's pull that into figure. And then we're going to move to this one. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to have to pull a lot farther though, so we're going to make it a little bit bigger. We're going to grab and pull in. And up. And then shrink it. Pull that loose up. Okay. We also need to pull this out quite a bit because it's starting to poke through the arm and sleeve. And now let's pull out all these and let's see what we can do about tweaking them. Okay, we want the bottom ones to be in front, so we pull that back a bit. Then get the middle one and we kind of pull it. Oh, it's all the way out. Let's go back up to the top one. Let's pull it back quite a bit. There we go. And here. Okay, next we're going to merge the wings together and give it a level of mesh smooth. Because you can see the geometry here, we don't want to divide. Bleed lower. Now, we are an hour in, and I'd say we're about 50% done. Now, there's one other thing we got to do before we make the before we detail the wrinkles on the clothing, and that is we need to make hair. Any ideas? Hair? No hair? Mohawk? Just a short buzz cut? A long wavy hair? Okay. Going back away from the face, I would assume, because then it can like cover up the seam of where the wings meet the body. Okay. Alright, now the way we handle this is similar to the way we handle clothing. We're going to draw on basically where the hairline is, except for right here. And that's okay. I got the mouse too big. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, roughly where the hairline is, except for that. Now, we're gonna make that a little bit longer too when it comes time. Come around back, and it's gonna go all the way to there. And we're going to then come back in. Let's do the opposite side. A little bit, it's going to be a little bit longer down the forehead on that side. Hair is very rarely perfectly parallel. Okay. I'm going to be doing a lot of shaping on this. After we get the basic... I know that's not as long as you want it to be, but for right now, that's as long as it's going to be. We're going to deal with it afterwards. Once we have it, we'll be able to stretch it out and deal with it and things like that. But for right now, extract 0.01, extract, accept, draw, and then come up here, go to geometry, dynamic mesh at 128. Then we're going to very gently smooth out the shape. Then we're going to inflate. And we're going to turn on backface masking. That's under auto masking. Right here it says backface mask. That way we can expand the size without it going through the back of the head. Once we've done that, then we're going to go use move, and we're going to grab it, and we're going to pull it out quite a bit and down quite a bit. And just to double check, let's see what happens when we turn on the wings. Okay, we're going to need to bring it up a little bit more over the wings here. So we're going to grab it and kind of pull it up to there. And this is going to come up like that. Now we're going to go back to inflate. we're going to kind of inflate down here. I want it to be almost superhumanly bushy. We're also going to inflate it here. And then we're going to divide it quite a bit. Switch from 128 to 256 and draw. Now, we're going to start using the clay buildup tool like we used to give the basic shape of the wrinkles right in here, just to kind of clean up the overall shape of the hair. And then we're going to smooth it. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to turn this one to back face mask because of what we're going to do around here. Okay, let's go ahead and smooth that out. It doesn't matter if there's a gap underneath as long as we seal the sides of the gap, because the gap will get filled in as time happens. Okay, now we're going to start off by just kind of drawing some basic shapes. These will be like locks, individual locks, including down here. Okay, we're going to turn it on transparency. We can now continue some more. Oh, that's not our good shape. Just to get some wave into these things. We are going to turn on, go up to the stroke menu and turn off the lazy mouse, turn the intensity down to 15. Yeah, let's make this just a little bit bigger. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to draw in right there some of these crevices. Now the reason why is because there's two main ways that people will paint hair. And this will allow this technique that we're going to use will allow both of them to work well. Okay, the first is a wash. You painted a basic color, a lighter shade of what you want to be the final color, and then you make a thinned down version of the darker shade. This thinned down version, when you paint it on, will settle into the cracks and crevices and okay. That's what that slash was for. Now we go to add and drop it to 9 or 8. And then we add in the front edge of each of these. Actually, let's drop that down to 6. Yeah, there we go. And what this does, the second method is dry brushing. And that's just simply you painted a darker shade, and then you take your brush and you wipe most of the paint off of it. that the brush is nearly dry. And then you brush across the ridges of the surface, in this case the hair. And the sharper the edge, the easier the technique, because it catches the paint easier off of your brush. And we need to bring it a little bit further forward on the head. So we just go back to move. And we're just going to grab it and kind of move it further forward and a little bit higher up on the crown. And bring that edge down a little bit and this edge up, and frame out. Okay. Now I dare say we are ready for the wrinkles in the clothing. Would you agree? Okay. Actually, one other thing we need to do, and that's we need to use seam 16 with 20 intensity to make the rest of the neckline. Oh, wrong tool. Just did that. Oh, wrong way. Let's turn on transparency. And then the rest of the neckline is hidden by hair and... oh, heck. Don't do that! There we go. And now we got the neckline. Okay. We have this. We got time to do some decent wrinkles. We're gonna start with the wrinkles on the actual body itself, which are on the chest up here and on the arms, and then down here on the bottom of the what would be the toga. Actually, we're going to do something on the toga itself first. Let's bring that up in the list. We're going to use this seam. We're going to make it a little bit smaller. And we're going to use it to represent the fact that this is folded over like that. Okay, now, going back to him. We're going to start with clay build-up tool, just like what we used on the hair, but it's going to be a slightly different pattern. For one, it's going to represent the areas of wrinkle. In this case, the underarm is going to be wrinkled a lot more, like this, right, a kind of a star pattern. Those are the small wrinkles on that arm. There's going to be a couple coming up like this. We're going to hide the wings. We're also going to have wrinkles coming up here. Okay. We're then going to smooth out the tops and a little bit along the body, because this is just to give the form of the wrinkles, like what we did on the toga part. And then whoop, forgot to hit shift. Shift will always shift over to the smoothing tool you have active. Whereas Control is mask, Control Shift is the special selection tool, which in this case I've got the clipping, which cuts it in a rectangle. Alright. Now let's go ahead and smooth that a little bit more. Now we're going to make this a little bit bigger. We're going to start doing some of the other shapes. Oh. We're going to smooth it just a little bit. Once again, we're going mostly for shape here, not precision, because this is just the hide the belt too. Now, on this part right here, we start off with, it's going to be mostly connected at the hip, so it's going to come out under, a deeper flow, and then it's going to come down and come down. Actually, no. It needs to come down from this side because this is the one that's going slightly. Same thing's going to happen here. It's going to come this way, that way, and then this is going to come up from here, down that way, down. I'm going to smooth those. And then this one's going to come from here, come up, come from here, come up, down, down, down. Now we're going to make the mouse a bit bigger and smooth these areas out. Once again, we're going for form here rather than actual precision on placement, because we're going to get the precision with a different tool. A different brush, rather. This is the tool is the brush. ZBrush has some weird terminology. It's also not going to be as accurate on realism on these wrinkles as, say, the old masters, for a couple reasons. One, I'm not an old master. I may be old, but I am not that old. I'm not from that time period. Okay, frame out. You can already see how the wrinkles are going to hang, and I like the way that looks. We turn on the belt. Good. It's not poking through the belt. Because the next step is to do something similar with slash. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the Z sub at 6. We're going to make that 10. And we're going to cut in some of these wrinkles just very gently at the bottom of any given wrinkle. Not directly in the middle of two of these shapes, but rather at the bottom of one of those shapes we added in. Because gravity also affects wrinkles. We also don't have to do the entirety of the wrinkle. We're going to come back and do it again up here with a smaller brush size, but for now, see, add 6, no, let's make that 5. We're going to kind of pull it on the bottom third of these wrinkles. Cloth wrinkles sharply, contrary to a lot of people's mental image on how to represent cloth wrinkles. A lot of really good cloth sculptors in the community, though. I've seen some amazing work. I wish I was as good as they are. I'm a journeyman, I would say. I've seen some masters in this community, like Duncan Luca, a few others. Once again, you don't need to go through the entirety of that form. A bit of definition here and there at the peak, at the primary aspects of it. Okay, now we're going to go back to sub, go back to 10, and let's shrink it down a little bit. We're going to kind of come under here, down, down, down here, down here, down here, down here, 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 here. Okay. Now, some of these areas we're not going to re-hit with the add on the peak, because some of these areas we don't really need to, because they're a softer wrinkle than some of the big heavy hangy downies in the bottom part of the skirt area. Now we're going to go back to 6 and add, and we're going to draw in the edges of these wrinkles. That last one was not good. It needs to be below the 50% part of the wrinkle. And I have to confess something. When I was doing the Google image search for toga, just to refresh my memory on exactly how they hung, one of the first things that popped up on that image search was an anime character named Himiko Toga, who is a complete and utter psychopath. My Hero Academia, her superpower is she can look like anyone she wants to as long as she drinks their blood. There's a surprising number of blood-based superpowers for a superhero-based anime. Okay, and now we do work on the toga itself. We already have our masses done, so now it's time to draw in the wrinkles. Now the wrinkles have to be a little bit heavier here, simply because it is a massively wrinkled, folded aspect of the garment. down here. We're also going to use the pad, drop this to 6. And we want this to be on the bottom third of the wrinkle. Because, again, gravity. I want it to look like it's hanging, not like it's Bruce Lee. All spruced up and just anti-gravity. Yes, I understand that this is an angel who probably is experiencing anti-gravity because he doesn't touch the ground. But that would look wrong, even, yeah. It wouldn't look like cloth anymore at that point. It would look like just some kind of zigzag stuff. We want to make sure we put these where they would be if she was standing. Okay, now let's frame out and turn on the belt, and then turn on the wings. And here we have our seraphim standing in the grass. What do you think? Okay, you want her cheeks to be a bit rounder? Okay. That's part of why we have you in the chat, so that you can be there to, let's also clean up the eyeball. So you can be there to affect things. Now, do you want it rounder by having more material in the underside of the cheek, or do you want me to smooth those off and make the face a little bit narrower? Okay. I'm also going to make the lower lip a little bit thicker. The reason for this is I'm going to do it. The reason for this is when you print, that mouth is going to be a lot smaller than it looks. Okay, just to let you know, so I'm adding a little bit of material here. And then I'm going to smooth that material. Okay. When you print, these details are going to be a lot smaller. And they're not going to show up as well. By making them a little bit more exaggerated, they show up better when you print them. Also, when we're going to take Damn Standard and we're going to make sure we got it in the right spot. A sharper, deeper mouth slit. Now, to show you what it'll look like as a miniature, there we go. That's how it will look printed in FDM. Printed in resin, you'll be able to get more detail and look a bit more like this. You'll be able to make out things like the strikes on the sections of the rope, the eyelids. The fingers will be more clear. Any other changes that you can think of? They're not really. They're doing... maybe doing a 45. And honestly, the best I could do would be to move it out. It's not that sharp. I make sharper every day. Like, they're about like that. It's also too late to do anything to the pose. I can do minor, very minor things to the pose. But right now it's pretty much set in right now. Let's say it's like that. Alright. Let me go ahead and frame out so that we've got the whole thing. And now what I'm going to do next is going to be odd, but trust me. Alright, first we're going to merge the whole bit of everything that's part of the angel itself. Okay, there we go. It's all one piece, but it's actually multiple pieces intersecting. It's not actually one piece right now. We need to make it one piece. So we go to geometry, and let's control draw. Okay. I can tell you right now, this is going to be a nightmare for supports. Now, we're going to duplicate it and move that down below the base. Then we're going to click on this button over here. We go to polygroup. Actually, we're going to go to deformation. We're going to inflate by about 5 more. I know she looks like a dwarf now, but there's a reason for that. We're going to make the base visible. We're going to divide it once. Dynamesh 768. And then we're going to merge down and control draw. And what that's going to do, it's going to leave us with a base that actually has on it the impressions on where the feet go for the mesh itself, for the miniature itself. So now we actually have two separate pieces to print: the base and the body. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we got to make these printable, because this is actually, you know, the base is 620,000 triangles and the body is 4.2 million. Yeah, that's not going to be happy for any slicer. So we go to Decimation Master. We're going to reduce this to 75,000 points, or about 150,000 triangles. And we're going to get a visit from yet another of my little furballs. That one's right over there. So this one's Carlton. Yeah. It just wouldn't be a show without Carlton coming to pay annoyances, wouldn't it? Yeah. Hey, what do you... Don't bury your head in my underarm, little furball. Okay. And I'm about to put you down because I got some other things to do, so I'll see you again in a little bit. Okay. And... almost done. Reordering vertexes. Writing file to disk. And 70,348 75,000 triangles. And it still keeps all of the detail. Now we go to the base. We're going to make the base 35K, half the detail. It's got a lot of detail for that grass, but we don't need it to be as hugely detailed. Doesn't take anywhere near as long because it's a lot less complex. And there we go. There's our grass with our footprints. Hey, easy drip, bonus figure. There's an invisible stalker or an unseen servant. And there's our figure. Thank you, Katori. Now, my good patron, I don't know. Really? I don't know if you're on the Discord or not, but go ahead and send me the email address that you want me to send the link for these figures to, the figure and the base, because I'm going to be sending object OBJ format and STL format. Okay? Oh, and see that right there? That's a lifesaver. That means even if I screwed up and accidentally closed it right now, there's an emergency save already saved. But I'm going to export this as Seraphim base. And this export as Seraphim figure. Okay, it is now 9:36. I have a little bit of time I can schmooze with. I'm going to go ahead and click back on over here. And now, yeah. Really? Patreon message you. Excellent. Well, I'm going to be doing, like I said, I'm going to be sending you 4 files. The figure and base and OBJ format. The reason I send that is it's easier for a lot of modeling programs in case someone chooses to mesh mix, so to speak. and then the figure and base in STL format, which most, yeah, nanu. Most slicers nowadays can read both OBJ and STL, but some, like the Photon Slicer, only do STL format. So that's why I include both. Was one's easier to modify, one's easier to print. Beep. Beep. So anyway, many of you know I successfully finished a Kickstarter this past week. The Kickstarter was for various encounter critters, such as this bright shiny blue Storm Wyvern with his bright red stinger. These big old chunky Minotaurs. This Necromancer and his spectral servants. And more. But I've also finished a couple of the things that I started on this channel. To be exact, I finished the Goblin Storm Shaman with his wand of lightning bolts and his cloak of flight. I also finished his boss, the pirate. Arr, matey, an orc pirate. Yarr. With some armor of lightning resistance to help him deal with the fact that he's got a storm shaman. And I also finished the warlord that I started last week. This one's taking up less space. I'm going to make it. Boom! Big ol' bulky, nasty, heavy armor, anti-paladin warlord type. Yay! Thank you, Katori. The Kickstarter, like I said, finished on Tuesday successfully. I do have a couple things left to sculpt on it. I have to sculpt the barbarian soldiers that are the servants of the big burly guy that I just showed most recently. And I have an undead purple worm to sculpt. Do you mind, little buddy? Cats. Gotta love them. This is Ralph. This is Carlton. Yes, they're always this affectionate, but they just become a bit more insistent about it when I'm broadcasting. Tracy, an undead purple worm with the soul of a serial killer trapped inside of it. Unable to see or hear, trying to deal with the fact that it can only feel things, and going even more insane. And he's the one that did it. By the way, these craft paint bottles, best use, painting handle. My personal opinion. I'm not a fan of the craft paint, as you can see by all these other paints I have. Anyway, it's now 9:42. I still have to go out. I've got to take care of my brother's dog because he's still recovering. And so I'm going to have to head on out. I'm glad we were able to get your Seraphim for you. And for the first time in 3 weeks, I actually managed to get a patron sculpt done. The last couple weeks, they kept blanking out. So anyway, what I normally do when it comes time to say goodnight is I hold my hand up here. I count from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, I say something deep, meaningful, or utterly insane and goofy, and then go, When I see my finger go, that means I've caught up to the default lag on the live broadcast of YouTube. And that's when I go ahead and shut down the broadcast by clicking the button on the XSplit right up here. Okay. So, I'd like to thank you and good night. And that's going to be a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Did you know that a cat that lives to be 18 years old has roughly a 50-50 shot of making it to 30? And that the oldest cat on record was 38.